Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the DNA of a truly fascinating corporate entity. We're going to see exactly how a failing, run-of-the-mill company completely transformed into an absolute economic juggernaut. We are talking, of course, about Berkshire Hathaway.
To immediately ground us in the sheer scale of this company, just think about this number, $700,000. As of August 2024, that was the price of a single Class A share of Berkshire Hathaway. Not a block of shares, you guys. One single share. It's literally the highest per share price of any public company in the entire world.
But the real mystery we're going to solve in this explainer is the journey. How exactly did a struggling New England textile manufacturer back in 1955 evolve into an asset behemoth valued at over $1.2 trillion? By August 2024, it became the 8th largest U.S. public company and the very first non-tech company to ever cross that trillion-dollar mark. The path to get there is totally counterintuitive, but it holds a literal masterclass in investing for all of us.
Part 1. The monumental mistake.
So our story actually begins with a massive error in judgment. Here's how it all went down. Back in 1962, a young Warren Buffett started buying stock in this declining textile business called Berkshire Hathaway for just $7.50 a share. He figured, as the company liquidated its mills, he could just sell the shares back at a nice little profit. Fast forward to 1964, and the manager, a guy named Seabury Stanton, verbally agreed to buy Buffett's shares for $11.50 each. But when the written offer finally arrived, it was for $11.375. Stanton had undercut him by 12.5 cents. Think about that, 12.5 cents. Well, this absolutely infuriated Buffett. Instead of just walking away, he bought even more stock, took complete control of the whole company in 1965, and promptly fired Stanton.
Now, while that makes for an amazing revenge story, it was honestly a terrible business decision at the time. Buffett's capital was now trapped in a dying industry. He literally had to keep funding a sinking ship until he finally shut down the last textile operations in 1985. Buffett himself later called it the biggest investment mistake he ever made. He estimated that letting his emotions get the better of him cost him around $200 billion in compounded returns. So it's a pretty stark reminder of what happens when we let our emotions drive financial decisions, right?
Part 2. The magic of float. Now, what's really interesting here is how Buffett actually fixed that monumental mistake. He needed a brand new way to generate cash, and the solution is beautifully illustrated by an investment Berkshire made in 1970 into blue chip stamps. Think of trading stamps kind of like early loyalty programs. Gas stations and supermarkets would buy these stamps for cash up front to give to their customers. Blue Chip got the cash immediately, right? But they didn't have to spend a single dime until customers actually licked those stamps, filled up a booklet, and redeemed them for merchandise. And of course, a ton of stamps were just lost or forgotten, creating a pure profit margin known as breakage. Well, Buffett realized this model of getting cash up front and delaying expenses was practically identical to another massive industry, insurance. So the absolutely crucial concept to grasp here is float. Float is simply the money an insurance company collects in premiums today, but doesn't actually have to pay out in claims until tomorrow or maybe even years from now. By acquiring National Indemnity in 1967 and later GEICO, Buffett effectively weaponized this float. He used this continuous, massive river of free capital to fund a long-term shopping spree across corporate America.
Part 3. The trillion-dollar portfolio.
So what exactly does that engine power today? Well, it's a trillion-dollar portfolio. On one side, you've got iconic, everyday brands that Berkshire owns outright. They don't just invest in these, they completely own them. We're talking Geico, Dairy Queen, Duracell, the massive BNSF Railway, and the truck stop chain Pilot Flying J. Then on the other side, you have their non-controlling stock investments. They hold these massive multi-billion-dollar stakes in companies like Apple, American Express, Coca-Cola, and Bank of America. It is the ultimate diversification, and it's entirely funded by that insurance float. And this brilliantly illustrates the staggering results of that strategy. If you look at the historical returns from 1965 to 2023, Berkshire Hathaway generated a compounded annual growth rate of 19.8%. The S&P 500 during that exact same time, just 10.2%. By nearly doubling the market average year after year for decades, the magic of compounding turned a few $1,000s into literally millions for their early investors. It's just wild. And their investment playbook? It is remarkably disciplined. Historically, they totally avoided tech firms because Buffett only invests in what he deeply understands, which means, yeah, they missed out early on Microsoft and Amazon. They also generally dislike real estate because of the tax and management complexities. Instead, they buy things they get, like the BNSF Railway for $26 billion in 2010. And when markets get unpredictable, they absolutely aren't afraid to hoard cash. In 2024, they slashed their massive Apple stake by nearly 50%, and by late 2025, the company was sitting on an astonishing $381.7 billion in cash and treasury bills. It's a true masterclass in sticking only to what you know. Part 4. The Berkshire Culture. Now, you can't truly understand this empire just by looking at its balance sheet. You really have to look at its highly unusual corporate culture. For example, consider this: $100,000. That is Warren Buffett's annual salary. For 35 years, despite managing a trillion-dollar company, his salary hasn't changed a bit. No stock options either. He operates out of the exact same modest office building in Omaha with a tiny corporate staff of just around 27 people. This culture of extreme long-term discipline also explains that crazy $700,000 share price we talked about earlier. Berkshire has a profound aversion to stock splits. Buffett specifically wanted to attract long-term partners, definitely not day traders or short-term speculators. In fact, the only reason they ever created the cheaper Class B shares back in 1996 was just to stop copycat investment funds from marketing themselves as Berkshire lookalikes. And then there's the annual shareholder meeting in Omaha. It's famously dubbed the Woodstock for capitalists. Instead of some stuffy, boring corporate briefing, it's literally a massive festival. Over 40,000 people show up to sit through a 6 to 8 hour unscripted Q&A session. And the meetings kick off with these hilarious custom cartoons. We're talking Arnold Schwarzenegger appearing as the Warrenator to stop a mega corporation, or Buffett playing basketball against LeBron James. It's deeply quirky, community-driven, and just utterly unique in the corporate world.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Part 5, the post-Buffett future. For decades, Wall Street has obsessed over what happens when the architect finally steps down. Well, the passing of the torch has been incredibly methodical. In May of 2021, Greg Abel was named the official successor. Then, in May 2025, Buffett formally announced his retirement, and on January 1st, 2026, Abel officially took the reins as CEO. But hey, if anyone thought Berkshire would slow down, Abel immediately proved them wrong. By mid-2026, he secured a $6.8 billion cash acquisition of homebuilder Taylor Morrison and made a massive $10 billion private placement investment in Alphabet. The new era has aggressively begun. Which leaves us with this final thought. We've seen how a petty 12-cent argument created a massive textile mistake, which was then miraculously saved by the magic of insurance float, ultimately building a trillion-dollar portfolio driven by an eccentric, long-term culture. Greg Abel has the cash and he has the playbook. But the real question you should take away from this explainer is, can this accidental empire sustain its unparalleled magic without its legendary founder at the helm? Time and the markets will definitely tell. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep learning.